Greetings, degenerates. St. Michael here, and today I'm going to be doing a response video, I guess you can call it that, because I got into a little bit of a Twitter slap fight, you can call it, with the aristocratic utensil, aka Spoon, who I have no real respect for because he's an up-his-own-ass douchebag. I touched a little bit on this, though no real anything, I guess, with my Nazi apologist video. But after recording that and, going online and beyond on Twitter, I decided to respond to something I saw him post, which was fucking stupid. So what started this crap? Well, the Twitter part started with this. The Discord bullshit, that's later. The abolition of slavery was a mistake. That was Spoon's reaction to this meme, which just shows the killer of the Ukrainian woman kneeling on her head. Well, what was my response? Then go to the Middle East. Islam still has it over there, dude. In fact, they love it. It was the Christian West that said owning people and treating people like that was evil. A basic response. If you really think that slavery shouldn't have been a thing, well, guess what? Go to a place where it still has it. So what was the so-called intellectual, high IQ aristocrat and his well-thought-out response to that? Was it breaking down everything I said word for word and destroying it with a historical fact or an argument and maybe saying, hey, you know what? I see your point, but here's where you're wrong. No. His response was this. To act like a petulant, emotional ex-girlfriend. Listen, dickhead, you kicked me from you server, yours, because you were too much of a pussy-ass bitch to handle my opinions. Don't comment on my post. Fuck off. First of all, you asshole, I will post on whatever comments and whatever I fucking feel like. Second, this has nothing to do with what I said at fucking all. All you did was act like a, as I mentioned, ex-girlfriend bringing up the past on some bullshit I did to you. This has nothing to do with anything I said. Not a single point was retorted. Not a single fact was brought back to my face and said, hey, here's where you're wrong. No, all you fucking did was act like a fucking child and put this bullshit. Well, here was my well, I can't exactly say what I said here, but no, you baguette, you were being an asshole, and I acted like a king getting rid of a citizen that was being mouthy. The very world you want, which is true. He wants a world where the government and some kingly rule says, hey, you don't get to say your opinion, you don't get to speak out against the king, you are under my rule. I gave him what he wanted. And you, let's see, in a world you live, and I still have the convo in my server, you closeted commie cocksucker. Yeah, as I will show, I still have the fucking day conversation where it led to him getting kicked out of my server. By the way, if you get kicked out of my server, you need to be fucking checked into an asylum, a different one, because we really don't give a fuck about your opinion. I have a bunch of different people who are in my server who I don't agree with on a lot of different topics. You were being an asshole. So he said, what did I say about commenting on my post, you retarded baguette? Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't you just block me, you pussy? Go fuck yourself. Why the fuck would I bother debating some mentally challenged imbecile? Oh, see, this is where he gets off. Because Razor has actively tried to get a debate with him, and he has ducked him every fucking time. This dude is a pussy. He doesn't want to debate. He wants to come in, say you're wrong, and then fuck off, which is what he did in my server, and he acted like an asshole. And yes, you are a closeted commie. My response was, you are a commie, you just won't admit it. You want a strong arm of the government to do what it wants because it has the power, and you can't admit it because you think commie equals you, which is easily disproven by Marx's own words. And this is my dagger twist because he is very much, he's legitimately a misogynist. Like, I don't want to, throw out that, because I don't like throwing out terms like Nazi and sexist and racist. No, but he legitimately fucking is. And here's this. I also find it very telling, Spoon. You didn't address my point to your post. You brought up the past and some slight I did to you. Sounds like an emotional woman. I knew you were a fucking fake and an incel. Because, which one of us has a woman in their life, Spoon? Me or you? Funny. I wonder why. So, that was then. This is the Discord. Now, by the way, this isn't some doxing bullshit. This is public. Well, public, you could say. It's easily searchable in my server because it was in the, the main areas. It wasn't some DM. So this is something that our once, I would say, mutual friend guide posted. Let's talk about this. Why does individual autonomy inevitably lead to totalitarianism? That's retarded. I am making autonomous choices. You are making autonomous choices. All seem good. This is kind of where I responded. Now, this was back when all I would do is post TED Talk like paragraphs online. This is when I would do videos. But all I said was, the reality of the world is there's pros and cons with everything. Either you have no individualism, which means you aren't a person, you are a number of the state, but you are have a unified movement, or you have it and you are a created being, not a drone, but things are harder to unify, which is, yes. That's literally the dichotomy of the left and the right. The left is a hive mind and quick to kick out, whereas the right can't unify but has a common enemy. It's like the idea of an arranged marriage or you date to find a spouse. Basically, what I was saying is, when you have one side that's easily collective, they can unify, but it also makes them very stringent on what they need. They easily can look at the left and how they acted with RFK Jr., with Tulsi Gabbard, with all of them, even with Elon Musk. And again, what was Spoon's high IQ, mass intellect, master debater response? ... What world do you live in? That's his MO. This was like the third time this piece of shit did this. He would come in, act like an asshole, cry bully, then leave. At this point, I was done. This is my server. You are granted the ability to be there because a friend of mine asked and I said, okay, my kingdom, my rules. You don't like it? You fuck off. And that was his problem. He had someone that dared to disagree with him. And I said, reality. Sorry, but it's true. No, it's really not. Yeah, it is. And I guess, I'm not exactly bringing a lot to the table here, too. But he says, and you're fucking delusional. If you say so, I was just basically, if you say so, whatever. No, you really are not. What was his response to all that? No, you see liberal delusions. Okay, because this guy thinks liberal ultimately means bad. conservative and liberal are not enemies. They are two sides of a coin. You can be too liberal or too conservative. Okay? Too conservative is restrictive. Too liberal is everyone does whatever the fuck I want. There needs to be balance. Everything is balanceable. But this guy who claims to fight for the West doesn't care about the founding principles of the West, which are, I hate to say democracy because I'm not a big fan of it either, but personal autonomy, which is, not being ruled, and Christianity, which apparently that makes me a Christ cuck because I care about Jesus more than I care about really anything, which it says so to do in the Bible. Okay, you don't have individualism in a non-Christian sense. And he said, you cannot get out of this left versus right mentality because that's what they framed for you. No. Sorry, but you are way off here. Pal, I know far more here than you. By a country mile. No, you don't, dude. It's not left versus right. And I use that as an analogy. You frame it as such. You are wrong. This is reality. No, it is not. Individualism is bullshit. Here it is. Individualism is bullshit. This is the words of a Marxist. He is a closeted fucking Marxist. You don't have individualism in things like totalitarianism, in things like Marxist, communist, socialist ideology. So there is no individualism, meaning there is no God, meaning there is no everyone is unique and created in a special image in likeness of God. This guy doesn't believe in individualism because he is a Marxist. But he goes on, listen, you moron. And I'm like, I'm right. I look at this biblically. Communism is about stateless society. Ask yourself, why has every iteration of communism not resulted in that, but rather in a new hierarchy? Dude, you're fighting for the very fucking system you can't stand. So Jesus was a loser. Could it possibly be because it's bullshit? Yes. Look, here's the thing. I don't like communism. I don't like Marxism. I don't like Nazism, fascism, all forms of this socialist mentality. But all he thinks about is in power and force. There is nothing else. All there is power and force. Here's the thing. Dude, you could have a sword at my throat right now, have all the power over me in the world, every physical force. You could say, deny Jesus Christ. No. That's what the original martyrs did. That's what turned over the Roman Empire. And your power over me, your force over me means absolutely nothing because Jesus is ahead of you, is above you. Now, you may not believe that, and I don't think he does because, again, he's a fucking Marxist. But that's what I believe. Your force, your power has nothing against me. You can say right now, gun to my head, deny the Bible. No. Blow my brains out. It just means I'm going to be with Jesus sooner. Now, I don't think I should be suicidal and run to such fruitless endeavors. But should that event happen, I'm not. I don't care. So Guy chimed in and says, so you have replaced one hierarchy with another. Well, yeah. Communism is what was I trying to say? Communism is natural and makes sense, right? It is, because communism is how society works. The idea that you have a strong, powerful leader and he determines what. Again, going back to Razor, the bugs in our system are features in communism, monarchism. I don't give a fuck. A strong leader that doesn't care, like, oh, well, a king has to care about his citizens. To a point, but then you'd have to say the very same thing about Kim Jong-un or Stalin. They have to care enough about their citizens to not have them overthrown. Like, what's the difference? They own the military. They own everything. They own the media. That's what kings did. It's the same fucking system, you asshat. It's fucking pathetic. Whoever has power determines how it's wielded. I understand why people want to beat you with a rolling pin. No, they don't. You are an asshole. You got to realize that the powerful and the powerless is how nature works. If you were to remove any sense of morality, any sense of biblical principles, you have Marxism, you have communism, you have monarchism. I don't care. And his idea that, well, Jesus Christ is king, that means everyone's a monarchist. No, you dumb fuck. As I posted in another tweet of his, just because you say Jesus Christ is king doesn't make you a Marxist, because King of Kings means he is head of all rulers. Kings were simply the most highly respected known word for a ruler at the time the biblical writers were writing the Bible. You could say president of presidents now. You could say prime minister of prime ministers now. It means the same thing. He is a ruler of all rulers here on earth. All rulers on earth are lesser. I'm not a Marxist because I say Jesus Christ is king, you stupid fuck. So this is just bullshit. You fight for a system like Islam. I legit want to hit you. Okay? Because Islam is just like communism. It spreads not by debate, not by truth, but by force and power. That's what he fights for, a world where nothing matters but force, power, and hierarchy. And he who has power determines how it's wielded. Might makes right. That is literally how communism and Islam work, you dumbass. How the fuck is trans ideology a thing? What is that? Okay, that had nothing to do with anything I had to say. Does it make sense? Does it make any fucking sense for civilization to do that? No. It doesn't matter if who has power. And then he just was like, oh my God, you're fucking retarded. So I was just trying to explain the fact that if might makes right, who determines what's right? Ultimately, it's whoever has power, which... How do they get power? Well, it doesn't matter. If in a world where morality doesn't matter, you can lie, cheat, and steal your way to get power, and it doesn't matter because once you have the power, you determine how it's wielded. But that's not how morality works. But that is how communism and Islam established themselves and spread. They only spread by force. And the reality of this idea of, oh, you can spread Christendom by force, no, you can't. Because if you look at history, if you look at how Europe worked, they began to fracture when this whole Catholicism versus Protestantism started fighting each other. They weren't spreading by truth or love. They were spreading by force, which Christianity cannot do and was never told to do. So he is fighting for a system that has nothing but power, force, and hierarchy predicated in itself. Sorry, that is totalitarian. That's Marxism. You can call it whatever you want because your guy has a fucking crown and a robe and a fucking scepter. It's the same thing. Sorry, but I'm 100% correct. You don't have biblical love and thus free will if we are just drones of the state. This is why Christianity is vehemently destroyed and outed in communism and in many societies. Christianity didn't do well when it tried to do that tactic. It actually spread better when it was persecuted class under the Romans. It's easy all for Jesus when it's easy to be all for Jesus when it's popular, when it never is. And that's the reality of the world. Will always hate it. Yes. Christianity doesn't spread well by force because you cannot force love. You cannot force God's love. That's called rape, you dumbass. And this guy doesn't fucking get it. Stop talking about politics. You literally are not mentally fit for it. See, this guy is not doing anything in terms of retorting anything I say. I am trying to provide actual reality in accordance to what I was trying to say. All he's doing is, you're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid. He's a pussy. There's not a single person in this Discord that thinks you know more about politics. Incorrect. And he posted this on his Twitter to try and make himself look better, which is, again, another very female ex-girlfriend thing to do. So you make me look bad, so you have your little echo chamber of circle jerk-offs to make yourself feel better. Why would you do that? Why would you post a conversation in a Discord to others if not to get some sort of validation? You're pathetic, dude. You're fucking pathetic. It's sad. And I honestly just come out of the closet and say you're a communist, you're a Marxist, because that is what you're fighting for. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. You are a Marxist. You just won't admit it. So he goes on and does this bullshit. Your circle is your echo chamber. What a man. There's still the reality of morals. And I was like, that makes you the winner? Nope, I can post it and literally nothing. Just text and let people arrive at their own conclusion. No, because you systematically cherry-picked the fucking argument and the topic to make yourself look like the victor. Here I am adding context because you were an asshole. Now I want to get to the part where did Nyala come in? You really don't see how your pride is blinding you. We didn't say it's morally justified, it's how power works. Okay. If, again, power is all that matters, then it doesn't matter how and who is in charge. If this guy thinks the Jews run the world, okay, well, they have power and thus the right to rule. You have no say. If you do not have power, you have no right to question those who do. There is no individualism. Remember? Individualism means, hey, I'm not going to go with this party. I'm not going to be subject to this guy's power over me. I'm going to be different. But you flip-flop and say there's no individualism, but then you also want to say that, we can fight those that are in power because, why, they don't deserve to have power, but it's okay when you and your ilk do the same thing? That's hypocrisy, dude. You're a fucking hypocrite. And it's really, really obvious. Let's see. You really do like huffing your own farts. Yeah, he does. How do you prohibit gays from adopting kids? Well, that's simple. You just make it illegal. Answer me what... Okay, answer me... I'm terrible at typing. Answer me what makes something wrong. This is where he would not answer my question. What makes something objectively wrong? Because in a world where all that matters is power, and those who have it determine what's right, there is no objective morality, because morality is whoever is in charge says it is. That is exactly how things like propaganda work. That's how the media enslave you to believe a narrative. That is communism, that is Marxism, that is every form of totalitarian dictatorial government that this motherfucker says he fights for, but ultimately stands goose lockstep in with. It's pathetic. Answer high IQ, or don't you know? Objectively, the fuck does that mean? Objective morality. Easy. Murder is wrong. End of discussion. Murder is wrong. Now, you could say, well, what about warfare? What about, self-defense? That is not murder. Even in the Bible, there is 2 words in the Hebrew language for taking life. One for murder and one for killing. We are not commanded to not kill. We are commanded to not murder. Murder is taking the life of innocent blood. Objectively, that is wrong. But in the world where power is all that matters, you can murder someone and it doesn't matter if you have, like, say, strong connections or you're doing so to push your own rule or your own regime. So objectively, there is no morality in this guy's own fucking way of thinking. So he wants to fight for the West, but ultimately doesn't know what that means. Okay, is objectively, you can't answer mine. Is not a fucking answer, you retarded mong. I'm guessing he was trying to say mongoloid. What makes theft wrong, what makes murder wrong, objectively means across the board, and he has nothing to say because that means nothing. How do you stop gays? This has nothing to do with the argument. Absolutely nothing. The original argument was basically on the premise of individualism, free will, and morality. Things that his ilk do not agree with because they cannot exist in a system where only power and force and hierarchical structures work. And yeah, I know everything has a hierarchy to a degree, but what is that hierarchy based on? Is it based on nature alone and how humans operate as a species and as a creature, or is it based on what God said? Communism, Marxism, Islam focuses entirely on how the force and hierarchy is predicated in nature if we are nothing more than apes running around fleeing our own shit. I live in a world where reality says, no, there's a God, and his structure of hierarchy trumps yours. But he can't fucking get out of his own ass. Answer the fucking question. This is just, yeah, he just refuses to answer. It's just fucking bullshit. This is kind of where he stepped away, and I thought, oh, okay, this is done. Fine, run away. You want a system that mirrors Islam and communism because they are built on might makes right. You are just too dumb or arrogant to admit it. You argued in poor faith and brought up something not even connected to what I was saying to make yourself feel superior, then was like, oh, I'll post this online so my echo chamber can feed my ego and tell me how great I am. Utterly pathetic. You acted like the very libtard atheist assholes you call out, but not surprised based on human nature. Okay, and this is where I say, this is actually where Nyala comes in. Murder isn't wrong because the tribe leader says it is, and the reality of human nature is that a society not founded biblically will collapse because you don't have innate value of life in nature. That's where you get concepts like eugenics, where certain genes and people are less valued, so they have to be removed, and a system that doesn't value women and children will stagnate or fail as well. Statistically, there is no safer place for them than a two-parent church-going home, and marriages where a couple prays are 1% likely, I think it's less than 1% likely, to get divorced. Islam is founded on force and spread by violence, same as communism, which itself is founded as a rejection of God and is more secular than that. Is more secular though. That really just means pagan. It really is. This is communism is just political paganism. You don't get things like genocide, slavery, or abortion without dehumanization of people, which is always at the basis of at the behest of a state. Because if God isn't the highest possible good, you will fill that with something else, like sex, money, and yes, power. Government always fills the void. Yes, this is why communism and Islamic countries reject Christianity and outright kill Christians, yes, and Jews, because you cannot have God competing with mammon. Communism, totalitarianism, power and force is all satanic. Sorry, you are, again, Marxist. End of fucking discussion. I am right. You are wrong. Okay. This is just... Oh, guide. Americans can't read patriarcha, and you know this. Okay, so this is where he comes back and tries to act like an asshole. Well, brick walls have their uses. Okay. You seem to be operating under the assumption where your opinion has any... Okay, this is where he just starts acting like an asshole. This is really just where he starts acting like an ass. And, here. He wants a monarchy, but then when he gets one, he wants to have free speech. This is after I timed him out. See, I wasn't originally going to kick him. I was just going to time him out, and maybe, hopefully that means he would go away for a bit. But I am exercising my power and my force because I have the authority in this server, my kingdom. I am king here to give you something. But then he's like, well, you think your opinion matters and blah, blah, blah. Well, now you're exercising individualism. Now you're exercising free will and free speech to call me out for my abuse of power. But isn't that the very system you want? Welcome to the rule of the might makes right, and I have the power and you don't. Or is it only, or is it you only want that system if you get to act superior and when it's your team? So you behave like an emotional woman online all you want. Sure, your circle jerk of followers will all cream in unison. Because it's not democratic, hardcore divine rights of kings. Okay, but if it's not democratic, I have the power in my server to do whatever the fuck I want, and you have no democratic recourse, you stupid hypocritical cocksucker. Oh my god, you're insufferably fucking dumb. The book that guy brought up, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. You are an emotional woman. You're behaving like an angry wife. No one here defended divine right of kings. It's simply the subject of the book, blah, 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 whatever. I'll post it to your fucking face. No, because all this is you acting like an ass. You didn't provide anything of any note of any substance to counter a fucking thing I said. This was you acting like a petulant temper tantrum having child. Emotional and can't accountability. Yeah, fucking word do you... what fucking world do you live in, mate? Yeah, the real one, because all of this is you acting like an emotional child. In fact, you brought this up as a response to what I said about you thinking slavery abolishing was wrong. You didn't retort anything I said. You simply said, well, you did this thing to me, and I'm hurt. My feelings are hurt. You fucking pussy liberal bitch. God, you woke-ass incel cocksucker. Let's see. So you didn't retort anything I said. You just sling buzzwords like the left. No, I don't talk my ass off at all. Yes, you do. That's all you ever fucking do. I just look at what you say. It's bullshit, and I refute. Refute it? No, you didn't. All you did was say, what world do you live in? How dare you say that? You didn't retort anything or refute anything I said. Not a fucking word. All you did was and first of all, I didn't tag you. I didn't say, hey, Spoon, what did you think about what I said? No, your own free will, by your own volition, came in to my fucking server, my room, by the way. The forum is my room, my personal room to post what I fucking want. Everyone else gets a room in my server. I get mine. But you came in and said, what world do you live in? That's not a response. That's not an argument. That's not a statistic. That is you being a baby. You aren't as smart as you think you are, blah, blah, blah. So again, this isn't a democracy, so apologize and bend the knee. This is where I started acting like a king. You want a monarchy? Bitch, my server is a monarchy. I am head. You are beneath me. You are not anyone close in relation to me. You are not my girlfriend. You are not my, my best friend. You're not my, mods. You are, at best, someone that I know and watch. You got a special role VIP, high-profile inmate, which is what I call the VIPs, content creators. You're nothing. You were nothing in my server. So you have no democratic right to anything. But then you want to bitch and complain about when I exercise that freedom, that power I have over you. And then instantly, all that monarchy bullshit goes out the fucking window when you aren't in charge. And that's what you were doing with your fucking tweets. Saying, don't you fucking post comments on my posts. You can't stop me unless you block me. And by all means, go ahead. I don't care. Block me, because I'm not going to block you. I'm not a bitch like you. So he didn't like the fact that I was exercising my power. And Guide, by the way, I mean no hate towards Lamented Guide. He's a friend of mine, and he was trying to make Peacemaker. At this point, I was done, because this is like the third or fourth time this piece of shit has done something like this. Guide was trying to blink Peacemaker, and I have no fault for him, no hate for him, no ill will for him. We still hang out, we still talk, and I still game with him. Spoon, on the other hand, he can go fuck himself. I have no interest in that asshole. And quite frankly, I hope this is the last I have to deal with him. So I think this is right around the time I just got rid of him. Yes. And Nyala put it pointedly, God, that twat was insufferable. I'm glad he's gone. So there you have it. He didn't get kicked out because he had opinions. He didn't share any opinions. Well, I mean, the opinion that he thinks he's smarter than me or that I'm a moron is, well, fair, whatever. That's his right to have. But he didn't have an opinion on what I said. He had an opinion on me as a person. He took aim at me personally. He didn't aim at my arguments. Almost like maybe he couldn't refute them. And he wants to sit on this moral high horse. Like, I don't have to debate you. You're beneath me, sir. That's pathetic. That's what the left does. And that's why I ultimately did call him a Marxist. Closeted or otherwise. He's a leftist, liberal, woke, emotion woman acting faggot. Cheers. God bless. And may demons fear when you wake in the morning.